Welcome to Cam Look, your twice daily dose of the Cincinnati Art Museum. Every Tuesday and Thursday, a staff member or volunteer will be sharing a work from the permanent collection and posing questions for discussion. Please check back at 10 a.m. every Tuesday and Thursday for a new work and a new conversation. My name is Sue. I'm a volunteer docent at the Art Museum. Today, I'd like to introduce you to two still life paintings and talk about how they are similar and how they are different. The first painting is Paul Cézanne's still life with bread and eggs, created in 1865. The second painting is George Braque's Compote, bread and cheese, created in 1941, about 75 years after the Cézanne work. So what do these two paintings have in common? Well, their classification or genre of painting is similar. Is it a person, place, or thing? These paintings are things. They are both still lifes. Both paintings have a horizontal orientation, which is to say that they are longer rather than taller. The subject matter is very similar. A still life could be flowers, books, musical instruments, animals, or other objects, and here both paintings show food, specifically cheese and bread, among other things. The setting is similar. Both paintings show objects on a table, and both feature a white tablecloth in the composition. The color palette is similar, in my opinion. Both are done in darker shades and earth tones. No bright colors or cooler shades are shown here. Something you may not be able to see in these photos we have here, but both paintings have an element of texture to them. Cézanne was known for his thick application of paint, and here the oil paint has been piled on, globbing up in some places, like on the onions. Braque used a very different technique to add texture. He actually blended sand with his oil paints to create a rough textured surface. Maybe you can find some other similarities that I may have missed. So what's different between these two paintings? Well, I would mention the subject matter again. While both paintings show bread and cheese featured, there are additional objects that are different. The Braque composition shows a compote, which is that white dish on the pedestal, and fruit. Plus, he has a silver blue tray to hold the cheese. Versus Cézanne, he shows us onions, eggs, a knife, a water glass, and a metal tankard. The style of the painting is quite different. Cézanne's painting seems more realistic to me, more recognizable, as if the bread and cheese might be something I'd see on my own table. The Braque work seems shallow in depth, and while I can clearly recognize cheese, bread, and a compote holding fruit, it doesn't look like anything that might be found on my table today. While I mentioned that the color palette was similar to me, at the same time I also noticed a stark difference in the backgrounds. The black color that Cézanne uses really makes the subject matter pop off the canvas, but it also makes it very difficult for me to tell where the dark table ends and the black wall and background begin. The Braque composition uses a medium brown background color, which allows me to see some architectural elements in the wall, and I have a clear definition between the table in the foreground and the wall in the background. I also noticed that Braque's work seems flat in depth. He uses a heavy black line to outline some of his objects to create depth or to create spatial differentiation between objects. Cézanne uses more shadow and varied paint colors to create a sense of depth. He does not simply outline the objects in his work. What else do you notice that is different between these two paintings that I may have forgotten to mention or notice? And while we're at it, what is that vertical gray figure in the middle of the Braque composition? Is it meant to be a shadow, or maybe a decorative object like glassware, or something else? I really can't figure it out. I'd love to know your thoughts on that topic. And a little more information about still lifes. Did you know that still lifes date back to Egyptian times when paintings of food and valuables were depicted on the walls of a tomb? Still lifes have been represented in every art movement and every style of painting throughout history, right up until contemporary art today. As we close out today's discussion, I would like to ask you, what would compose your still life painting if you were to gather items from your lunch today? Would it be a baguette with cheese and eggs, like we see here? Or might we see something more contemporary, like takeout boxes or wrappings from a sub shop? I'd love to see your thoughts below.